boissons-dit à tout.
What is going on, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. Yes, we are back. We are back live at our usual time. Thank God above, we're back. And with me, as always, co-piloting this thing is the homeboy Rob.
I actually showed up on time this week. It's pretty nice.
I know, it's a miracle. It's funny because usually I'm usually the late one, and not in terms of this, but kind of like life in general. I kind of run late. But yeah, we're here. We're on time mostly.
Yeah, kind of. I had to use the bathroom, so you can kind of blame this on me again if you want.
Right. Remember the unofficial motto of this show is "It's always Rob's fault."
That's true. That's a good motto to have.
Right. I know. It's always just like pass the buck off to someone else. It's always Rob's fault. It's never my fault. It's always Rob's fault.
You sound very leftist there.
I know. You never know. I might become infected with that horrible disease called liberal brain.
Yeah. I see you have your chips there. Yes. I have my not your father's root beer and a donut. So I'm ready to go for the stream.
Nice. What kind of donut?
It's a sugar donut. It's a powdered sugar donut.
Oh, nice.
Or not a powdered sugar. It's the sprinkled sugar.
Yeah, like
donut.
the granulated sugar.
That's the one. Yeah. Thank you.
All right.
And it's pretty damn good.
Yes, I know. Well, you can't beat fried dough. You can't. No. You just and you can't hate it because it's so damn delicious.
And it's fluffy and it's delicious and it's satisfying.
Yeah, exactly. So with all that donut talk out of the way, let's get this conversation started.
Well, it's been quite the week.
Yes, it has. It has indeed. A lot of things going on my end. A lot of things going on your end.
Mine has mainly been work and a lot of gaming in my off time.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing some writing for Up by Up Down and for some other stuff that I've been trying to do gaming wise. And yeah, like spoiler alert, we're gonna have a little bit of a break with Up by Up Down.
Yes.
I would say only maybe a week or two at most.
Yeah, just a bit of a slowdown.
But we're gonna have some really cool stuff coming up, and yeah, I've been testing out some new stuff, and I think it's gonna be good. Well, for those that have been following Up by Up Down, we just got done playing the harder version of Super Mario Brothers 3. We played the Japanese version, which was much harder. Mm-hmm. But you know what? I found an even harder version that I didn't know existed. They have what's called a Super Mario Brothers 3 randomizer, which randomizes the enemy layouts, the levels, the worlds. You can pretty much randomize everything. Uh-huh. And it is I started playing that a couple nights ago, and it's hard, but it's also a lot of fun just because what's the other cool part is, like, they also have the lost levels for levels that the designers designed but never ended up using. And so it's kind of, you get a whole like fun component of the game.
So basically just it's a big, it's kind of like one of those big like bingo cages, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like
just like mixes everything out, and then like it spits out like different parts from different levels.
Yeah, but shockingly, it's not like glitched out or weird or anything like that. It makes it a fun challenge. Because I've been looking at like games that I really enjoy a lot that everyone's played gamers have played thousands and thousands of times. So it's like, what can you say about it? What can you do different than like what's been done before? And obviously, like we took a little bit of a twist with that with the Super Mario Brothers 3, and we played a version of it that I don't think many people have played, outside of Japan,
Mm-hmm.
and so it was kind of fun to show that. But having the randomizer that completely changes the game and makes it a lot harder. There's a couple other like franchises too that have randomizers, like the original Legend of Zelda and Zelda: A Link to the Past, which is
So Nintendo like had this technology already then, and then just incorporated it into Mario 3.
I don't. It's not Nintendo doing this. It's fans who love the game.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like okay, because I thought I was under the impression that it was like some limited edition like release thing that Nintendo did.
No.
But if it's like if it's a wholly like fan created thing, then okay.
Yeah, and so like what happens is it's utilizing all of the things that are in the game. Like it's not it's the skeleton is still the game, but what it does is it randomizes like where you're getting items, and it creates a unique challenge for like I would say that the best one out there right now is for the original Legend of Zelda. And so like the basic map is completely the same. Like nothing's changed on that. But like when you go to like certain locations, like like I'm gonna go to like the Dungeon 1 location. Well, the Dungeon 1 location is something completely different. It might not be an actual dungeon, and like the first dungeon might be somewhere else, and then the items related to that dungeon are in like different places. So you're and it won't put you in a situation where you can not win the game. Like you just have to kind of figure things out differently, and like kind of they suggest to like print out the map and like, okay, like I found like this here, and like you want to write stuff down and keep track of it.
Okay. Oh, so like get your own map and like track your progress.
Exactly, and every like playthrough is different because it's randomized.
Right.
So
so you could play that. You could play that map again, but it won't be the same.
Exactly, because people have been like challenging themselves with like with games like Zelda and like Super Mario Brothers 3 and all those like quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
With Zelda, you have the original Zelda. You have like the original game, which is when it first came out. There was no like online guides and none of that stuff. So you were kind of talking with your friends in the schoolyard.
Right, you're comparing notes.
Like, hey, I played like this amount. Like I'm at this point. Where are you at? Like how did you figure this like secret out? Or someone's like, dude, I totally I was like messing around the other night and I used like this item over here and I got this item. It's like, and so you're kind of comparing notes and figuring things out that way.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously nowadays that doesn't quite work because we have like online guides and so many people have done videos on it. So it's like, okay, well, what can we do to make the game like more challenging? In the original game too, like once you beat it, there's a new game plus essentially, and you have a second quest where everything is different. Like from where there's some different enemies, and the game's a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
And then only with the original one can you do what's called the swordless quest, where people get to Ganon without getting the sword, and that's the only game you can do that in, and that's actually very difficult. And now you have like what's essentially the Zelda randomizer, which every time you play, the game is different, and so it just adds like elements like of challenge to a game that everyone loves, and just it kind of makes it new and fresh again. So I've been enjoying that a little bit. And for me, like Super Mario Bros. 3 is one of those just I think any gamer who has gamed loves I think loves that game, and I'm one of those people. I grew up playing that all the time, and having something where it's like it's randomized, where it adds a whole new like component to it. Because I enjoyed playing the Japanese version, which made it a lot harder, which made it a lot more fun for me.
Mhm.
But to randomize everything, I think that's completely awesome because every playthrough is different and fun.
Hmm.
So I've been enjoying that component. I've been playing a lot of like also like hacks and like homebrews of well, I guess in the sense of like they would be hacks because they're modifying uh like Super Mario Brothers and Metroid and Zelda and Castlevania, and making those games like different or like more challenging.
Mhm.
So I've been playing a lot of like those type of games. Like there was one where they actually created a brand new Zelda game with like new everything,
Huh.
and it was it was like I think just the Adventures of Link or something like that. I forget what the name of it, but it's just like I said, it's a brand new Zelda game, and it's pretty long for a game actually. So that's pretty cool. Uh, so I've been kind of messing around with a bunch of those and having a good time, and just kind of taking down notes and writing stuff for future Up by Up Down episodes. And then
Well,
more on
don't
like
spoil all. Don't spoil all the potential fun for the viewers.
Oh no! Like it's just like I said, we have plenty of stuff that, like I said, there's so many games, so little time.
Yes. Yes, and
So like,
a lot more Rob swearing.
oh yeah, trust me, there's gonna be a lot of swearing in some of these. And then on the personal
It's
side,
funny because I have like sit through those filmings, and I'm right behind the camera, and sometimes I want to start busting up laughing, but I know that I can't. And
you know what I should do for the next time that we like do filming is I should project because I can like what I can do because for those of you that don't know, like where we film, I have like my big screen like pretty much like right in front of like where like I'm filming and all that stuff. And what I should do for like so that you can kind of like watch along with the action, Andy, because instead of just sitting there and twiddling your thumbs and whatnot.
I'm not. Hey, I am not twiddling. First of all, I don't have thumbs to twiddle, jerk. And secondly, I'm doing very important producer stuff.
That's true. But no, what I should do is I should also like I should project the game onto like the big screen so you can see like what I'm dealing with, and like why I'm saying fuck so many times.
Yeah, I know. It's just like I'm just like sitting there, and all of a sudden you're screaming like fuck, 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 like like some kid with Tourette's. And I have no context. I mean, I just know that it's very frustrating and very difficult. That's about it.
Yeah, I think the next time, like when we start filming, I'm gonna project the game on the big screen for you, so you kind of get an idea of what's happening.
Right. All right.
But on a personal side of gaming, I've been playing a few games that I've been enjoying. I just recently beat a game called Assassin's Creed Unity, and for those that don't know, Assassin's Creed is one of like my favorite modern franchises that's been out for I would say about 10 years now,
at least,
maybe a little bit. Yeah, and what I like about it's like it's a good like action adventure kind of sort of RPG, but it's more action adventure, and it's kind of it's set in like this historical setting, but it's also fictional. Like the characters, like your character is a fictional character that's interacting with real historical characters under a kind of a fictional guise as well. And you get the you get like great like little historical tidbits, and for those that know me, I love history, so it's right up my alley. It's got everything that I love. It's got great gameplay. It's got history tidbits that I can learn about, and it's overall like a good story. And I beat the. I still have a couple games. I'm a couple games behind because Assassin's Creed Origin was the most recent that came out. I don't have that yet. The next one that I have to play is Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which I have. I just haven't started playing that yet. And before Unity, there's been several titles. There's Assassin's Creed 1, the original. Then number 2 was a trilogy actually. With then you had Assassin's Creed 3 and 4, and there was a couple of spin-offs from those. There was Assassin's Creed Rogue and Assassin's Creed Liberation. And Unity was overall it was a good game. It was set in the French Revolution, so like that part was cool. I kind of like learning a little bit more about the French Revolution that I didn't know about, and certain events that happened and why they happened, and then they throw in these like funny little like quips that like like when you're reading about the historical facts, so like there's like a narrator of the historical facts, and he kind of throws in his like little funny quips about history, which are quite funny.
Have you seen the Assassin's Creed movie?
I have not, and
I don't know. I heard like it was like really bad, but then
yes.
I think I think it was because like I was getting it from someone who enjoys games, and they didn't particularly enjoy it. But as just from someone who's not a fan of the games, but just like kind of who's more into movies, they said it wasn't that bad.
I would say that because I'm also I'm a gamer, so I would probably I've heard that I haven't seen it, but I have a feeling that I would probably hate it. And pretty much every movie that or any game that has become a movie has been pretty much shitty. Like it's been pretty bad.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because like they had the Doom one that was stupid. What else? Dude, they're about and they're gonna have like the newest one, or not new, one of the newest ones. That Rampage game.
Yeah.
That's just gonna be a CGI fest. What is it? Or CGI fest summer blockbuster. Starring The Rock, of course.
Of course.
The Rock. You can't have a summer blockbuster without The Rock.
The thing, and maybe what I'll probably do is I'll probably watch the movie just like so I can bash it on Nocturnal Transmissions. Yeah, I can be the film correspondent for that. But one thing that I like about the Assassin's Creed, just the series, is there's so much potential for there's so many things that you can do with it, movie wise, and there's the basic premise of Assassin's Creed is you're reliving like an ancestor's memories essentially. Like the first 3 games, you're controlling a character named Desmond Miles, who he's descended from a long line of the Assassin's Brotherhood, and he gets kidnapped by the antagonist.
Peoplehood. Let's be inclusive.
Okay, Trudeau. Yeah. And he's kidnapped by the
I
antagonistic
needed
force,
that.
which are called the Templars. The original game is set in the First Crusade.
Right.
Back in the was it the 11th century, the 11th or 10th century, and so they're pretty much like the Templars are forcing Desmond to relive one of his ancestors' memories throughout the Crusades, and so that's kind of where the gameplay comes in. You're playing as with that ancestor,
Right.
and that kind of
But
continues through the original trilogy. You're Desmond, but you're living out through his ancestors' lives.
right. I think the fundamental flaw with video game movies is that you remove all control of the characters, and so because what made playing those games fun was that you were in control. But now that you turn it into a movie, you just have to sit there and watch all the action going down, and you don't have a say in what characters do anymore.
True. I mean that I think that's an element to it, but the thing with if any of these video game franchises were going to be a good movie, I think Assassin's Creed has the best potential because it really does have limitless possibilities as far as living through parts of history that are I mean there's so much conflict and craziness within history that you can go back to and relive. And
I heard one of the. Well, finish your thought.
What I was saying is because you're essentially reliving the original, like I said, the original trilogy of games is you're playing as Desmond Miles, who's reliving his ancestors' memories, and at the end of number 3, something happens to Desmond, and the games that follow, they've kind of taken they've somehow extrapolated. I don't want to give it away and spoil the games, but they've extrapolated Desmond's power, and the Templars have extrapolated Desmond's power, and they're able to they don't necessarily need him to relive the memories of these ancestors as they look for. There's certain treasure and things that they're looking for to kind of essentially take over the world. Both sides are kind of looking to do the same thing. They just do it in different ways. They want to, the assassins want complete liberty and freedom to live out their lives, and to just be left alone and live in peace. Whereas the Templars, they also want peace too, but they want to do it through control and and keep everyone doing the same thing. They want order to keep the peace. And the idea that you could essentially go through any part of history and have a whole story of things, and I feel with the movie, I have a feeling that they completely just missed the ball and kind of missed the idea of Assassin's Creed altogether, albeit that they had the right actors in it, but I wonder if any of the actors played any of the games. It's kind of I think it would have made a huge difference.
Maybe, but I mean, again, this is just me hearing it secondhand or third hand, because I haven't actually seen the movie. I think, in fairness, I probably should, but I heard that one of the problems with the Assassin's Creed movie specifically was that the cool parts, and all the action happen in the past, and they keep kind of oscillating between Michael Fassbender's character being inside that machine to relive his ancestors' past, and then pulling him out and doing kind of the side stuff in reality.
Well, and that's kind of how
and
the game.
And it was just there's just kind of, they did like none of the action was allowed to like really. Um, yeah, all the action was like basically in that when they put him in the machine to make him relive the past, and like and there was like and then and apparently there wasn't enough of that, and like because they kept pulling him out and like having like all this other like either like exposition or like the side story that's happening in reality, and because I think the most interesting bit is like it's what's happening in the past.
Oh yeah, and see, maybe that's and I'm gonna actually, I think for next week, I'm gonna watch before we have our next Nocturnal Transmission. I'm actually gonna watch the movie just to like check it out.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of like how it like works in the game too, where like there is obviously like a lot of the action comes from living there's like a mystery and like something you're searching for in your ancestors' memories, but the real story is the in the real life. And the thing is with that device that allows the person to live those memories, it's called the animus. And the animus, like, you can only like in the case of in the game, in the character of like Desmond Miles, he's kind of a fairly powerful character, so he can last a long time in the animus without any negative effects on his like body and mind. Whereas like other people have actually like gone insane or died from the animus because they were forced to be in there too long. So the fact that they're pulling Michael Fassbender's character in and out of it kind of, I think, like is true to the game in that sense. But it's like one of those like ideas where there's a story of like the ancestor, but there's a story within the story of like the actual person behind that and like what's going on and like what they're searching for. So I don't want to like say anything about the movie before I see it, but from what I know of gaming movies, like the historical trend is not good.
Agreed. Yeah.
I mean, probably the worst was the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh yeah, that was just.
That was god
Hey,
awful.
did you know that the jump boots from Super Mario were repurposed for Face Off?
Really?
Yeah, for like the magnetic boots for the prison.
That was those.
Yeah,
those were
those.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, right. Yeah, nothing is ever. I forget what it was, but I don't know if it was a video that I saw on YouTube or maybe a short clip on like a Facebook post, but they broke down like all the props from like movies and things like that, and some stuff was like really interesting. Like,
yeah, well, I know like a lot of the like the Universal Monster movies, like they would like recycle sets and stuff from
yeah. But in like what is it? The communicators in the prequels in Star Wars, they were actually like the ones that they used in Phantom Menace. Those were actually like Schick. Those were actually like Schick razor handles. Like, yeah, it was like the lady. It was like the Lady Schick or like the Lady Gillette shaving shavers, but it was like the handle.
That's pretty hilarious.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah, pretty. Yeah, and then you do kind of see it in TV shows and things. You'll see like you'll see familiar props or you'll see familiar sets, and it's just it's all part of it's all part of the business, I guess.
Very true.
Yeah, I mean it's a good way to save money, and you don't have to spend, and you don't have to spend the time to make like something new when you could just like maybe paint it a different color and add like a little blinking light, and it's a completely different thing.
Very economical.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I feel like it's a movie that had a lot of potential to be really good, and it kind of probably missed the mark, and
Wait,
I'll
Mario
find out
Brothers?
by next week. Huh?
Mario Brothers or
Oh no, the Assassin's Creed movie. Yeah, Mario
okay.
Brothers is just a disaster altogether. That's a
Yeah,
whole
because
another.
because they try to make it too plausible. You know,
Yeah, it was.
instead of turning into the skid, they're fighting it. You know, they totally fought it all the way. They try to ground it. They try to make it grounded in like real life or plausibility, and
Yeah,
so
it was a poorly conceived version of that, unfortunately.
yeah.
Um, let's see what else have I. So that's I just beat that game recently, Assassin's Creed Unity.
Mhm.
Not the best of the series. I'll be honest. It was not well received when it first came out. Had a lot of bugs in it, and yeah, it still has bugs in it, but not quite as bad as the day one release.
Mhm.
So I'm hoping for better things in Syndicate, as far as like gameplay and all that.
Mhm.
And then, but I think like because they had been coming out with like a game a year like pretty regularly,
Mhm.
and they took a break to kind of fix a lot of like changed up the mechanics and all that stuff. So Origins was actually very well received, and it was quite a fun game from what I hear. So I look forward to getting that and playing that.
Mhm.
Um, the uh, and then I actually just purchased a game the other night called Kingdom Come Deliverance. And for the gamers out there, if you're familiar with the Elder Scrolls Skyrim, this game is essentially Skyrim, but without all the fantasy and magic behind it. It's set in the medieval era, and it's actually somewhat historically accurate, and as far like mechanically accurate too, where it's like you can't just hack and slash your way through things. Like you have to, if you get into a fight, you're using like real sword techniques from like that era, and
Hmm.
um,
Oh, so you're
and
not
but
like slashing at things.
yeah, exactly. You can't just like you can bust through and like try to take down a group of enemies by yourself, but more
Hmm.
than likely you're gonna die. So you have to kind of think your way through situations and either be diplomatic or have backup, or all sorts of like cool stuff like that. And so I just started playing that a little bit this evening, and I've been watching a lot of gameplay from this game called Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, very interesting. I love like medieval history. I think that we call it the Dark Ages, but in reality, there was so much happening during that time, and a lot of innovation and thought that kind of gets thrown away
Hmm.
uh, because we had the Reformation, and they kind of did a good job of stuffing that time period down, saying that there was nothing that happened that was important, but in reality, it's actually a very important part of history that should be looked at deeper. And this game, I think, does a quite a good job of doing that.
Yeah.
It's kind of
It's funny because yeah, because when they have like the Renaissance fairs, it's not typically the time period that you kind of think of with as the Renaissance, like Michelangelo and the artists, and like the rebirth of Western civilization, essentially. But they,
right,
it's all like knights and armor and lances and all the stuff you typically associate with the medieval period.
right.
So I think
Yeah,
yeah, I
because
think it's
this,
I think Renaissance fairs are kind of like misnamed.
Yeah, I would say so, because the Renaissance, there's everyone like thinks of it as like like a one or two events, but the Renaissance really, it was a movement that took several hundred years, and it was kind of like widespread changes on so many different levels. But this era that this game is portraying, it's the height of the Holy Roman Empire, and just
So Charlemagne and
yeah. Well, this focuses because this is set in like Bohemia, which is essentially like current day like the Czech Republic, and this is so it's like right around, I think they have the game set in like about like the the 1300s or so. It's like the 14th century, 13th or 14th century, and the idea is they're and it's set in like there's a rebellion that's about ready to happen between the son of a famous emperor of that era, and his son is just this lazy like kind of person that doesn't give a shit,
right,
and so his like half brother, who is a Hungarian king, which, hey, I'm Hungarian, and him along with the Pope at the time, move in to try to take over the territory, because the current ruler sucks, and so there's a the nation is almost divided, because like some are like, no, we have to back the king, he's our ruler, like he's the one that we believe in. Yet there's also like a whole like subsector of people who are like, no, like he's terrible, like we need like change, we need something different, and like we back this like new like the Pope and the new king and all this stuff. So it's kind of it's one of those things where it's like it's something that history kind of repeats itself, and it's kind of how we look at history today, where it's like kind of the same things. It's a very divided people that somehow like are clashing. And obviously with any like sort of storytelling, there has to be a good like clash of ideas and whatever, and this game definitely deals with that. But I like the idea of you can play it pretty much any way you want. You can be very diplomatic and not kill anyone, and kind of talk your way through situations, though that takes a little bit longer. You can be the aggressor and just fuck everybody, we're gonna kill them, and then there's a couple of different ways in between where you can do it. So it's definitely I mean, I've only played maybe a couple hours so far on it, but fuck, it's awesome. And you get like the cool like little historical tidbits about the medieval era that obviously I as a historian really love.
Cool. I don't know. Have you been keeping track of the Olympics at all?
Well, I just got done with doing dinner with one of our, well, we've already like interviewed him, but one of our future guests for the main show, Lane's Lair. I had dinner with him tonight, and we were watching some of the women's downhill skiing race, which was that. But other than that, like the only things I've heard about the Olympics are that gay skater that like has been bashing Mike Pence for the last, I don't know, couple weeks. That is essentially like, I think he got like a bronze gold like once, and
you got what?
He pretty much like got like a bronze gold like once.
Oh, he got a bronze. Okay, he got a bronze.
Yeah, and but he's essentially like pretty much irrelevant when it comes to the skating world as far as like the Olympics goes. And and pretty much like falsely accusing the vice president of being just a terrible person that believes in electrocuting gay people, which
So you're saying that if
exactly,
if it weren't for the fact that he was gay, like he wouldn't be getting nearly the attention that
pretty
he
much.
is. Because like if he wasn't gay, then like there'd be no point. It would be just some dude who does figure skating and who probably hates the current administration. And that's not
Well,
exciting. He has to have some sort of and like that whole gay thing gives him a hook. Gives him an
yeah.
edge.
So I've heard that. Then we had the whole hey, let's root for North Korea.
Yeah, I mean, I think we
Korea
talked about that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Just asked how, or was it last week?
I think it was last week we talked about the pro North Korea shit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. God, what a bunch of morons. They're because like the whole thing with Kim Jong Un's sister, it was like you're basically cheering Joseph Goebbels because that was her position in the regime, the propaganda minister. So you're basically cheering for Joseph Goebbels. I hope you feel good about that.
Yeah, and believing that she had nothing to do with like the deaths of like tens of millions of people, you're an idiot. Like she was right there, because she was doing that like when when her dad was in power.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
it was like it was funny because like places were saying like, oh, this is like Kim Jong Un sending his sister as a total charm offensive. And like they ended up, swallowing a hook, line, and sinker. It's like, you guys, and it's
absolutely.
Like, I mean, they were like calling it like, oh yeah, this is a trauma offensive. It's like, oh, but isn't she so great? I was like, you guys are idiots.
But anyway, so there's that.
Did you hear about? Did you hear about the Olympian that gamed the system? I just heard about this today. But apparently, there's this U.S.-born a snowboarder who got onto the Hungarian Olympic team for snowboarding for the half pipe. And she came basically last. And like the only reason she got on the team was because she totally gamed the system.
How was that?
Because like she didn't have to she realized she wasn't good enough to get on the U.S. team. Like even if she was like the suckiest one, there was no way that she would get on the U.S. team. So she went out for like the Italian team because her mom was like Italian, and then she went to the I think it was Hungary, but she went like and went and got onto the Hungarian team because her grandparents were Hungarian, and like the way she qualified was that she did like the very bare minimum, and she what is it, competed in events, like if you needed to be like if you needed to place like 15th, then she would only what is it?
She would compete to get to like the
she would compete, but she would compete in like competitions where there's only 12 people. If the minimum was like you had to be 15. So automatically it's like by default, because there's only 12 people, and she was the last one, she gets placed.
How very Hungarian of her. As a Hungarian, I can say how very Hungarian of her.
You guys are lazy shitbags.
Not all of us. I mean, like we had our greatest claims to fame as far as historical figures. We have Attila the Hun, who created the Hungarian Empire, and then you have Harry Houdini and Bela Lugosi. That's pretty much it as far as Hungarians go.
Okay. So we got a totally aggro guy, a guy who an illusionist, and then
we do a good job of conning the the common man.
Yeah, and well, yeah, because like even Attila kind of did that because he did like a hostage exchange with somebody, right? Like, was it a Roman?
Something like that, yeah. Yeah,
Was it a Roman? Like,
something
yeah,
like
he
that.
sent his son over to live with like his Roman adversary, and then the Roman adversary sent his son to go live with Attila.
Yeah, something like that. And
Yeah, it was like it's like a way to like ensure peace. Like, oh, don't attack me because I have your son. It's like, and you don't attack me because I have your son.
Yeah, well, there's a famous anecdote, concerning Hungarians where, it's like you'll walk in, you'll walk into a revolving door and like with a Hungarian behind you, and he'll come out in front of you. It's it's like one of I remember. God, I was
okay. So this
like
so this chick totally fits the stereotype.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I remember I was probably like 9 years old or 9 or 10. And I remember like we were my mom was buying like one of her first cars, and one of the dealerships that we went to was the used car dealership. The guy was very Hungarian. Like he had a name like like Laszlo Bobish or something very Hungarian. And my dad, who's also Hungarian, he shared this anecdote with the guy. He's like, "Oh, you must be Laszlo Bobish. That sounds Hungarian." Like, the trope of Hungarian to walk in behind you and come out, walk in revolving door behind you and come out in front of you, and the guy just turned around and like just walked off. It's like, well, I can't fool these people.
It's like, damn it! It's like there goes my commission.
Yeah, exactly. That's a very Hungarian tactic.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, I just thought it was amazing. And so like, yeah, I mean, like, I know now like the Hungarian, or I think it was Hungary. Don't hold me to that just yet, but yeah, like they want the Olympic Committee to like revise their standards and.
Well, true. It's I know like when in baseball when they have the World Baseball Classic, it's some of the rules concerning like the people that like the teams that people play for is a little
drop it a little bit. You're getting that Wilson thing. There it is.
Yeah, it's a little like little loose as far as like, yeah, I had like a great grandfather that was Italian once. Like, all right, come on, play for the Italian team. It's not exactly like they're full on Italian playing for like Team Italy or they're it's
or it's not like a totally white woman pretending to be a Native American.
God, don't. I'm not even going down that rabbit hole. I don't need to start there. Like that's a whole nother hour and a half of just.
I know, right? And it's and it's amazing because what happened to white privilege. If it's so great, if it's so great and advantageous to be white, then why is she pretending to be Native American? Ever think about that?
I think it's more. It's not that. I think it's more. To me, it seems more sinister that they're exploiting, the people that they so love, profess to love.
No, but like I'm just throwing the because people might throw out the the catch-alls like, oh, you're white privilege. It's like, well, if white people are so privileged, why is this white woman appropriating another ethnicity to advance herself if it's so advantageous to be white?
True. Well, I mean, you had like that chick from that was did she like it? Wasn't she like the president or like some sort of like high?
Yeah, Rachel Dolezal, right? She was like president of her like NAACP. Yeah, NAACP
her, and
chapter
then you have,
in Idaho.
Yeah, and then you have like Sean King, who still hasn't like realized that he's white or whatever.
Or he just won't admit it. Like, we all know, right? Because like the moment you called your mama out as a whore, we know that you weren't black, because no black man would ever say that about his mama.
Yeah, exactly. The dude is white.
I know.
Yeah,
have you
he's
seen shots of him like without like a shirt on, like neck down? He's like, he is so white.
You know, like I said, hey, if he's a white guy that's like advocating for for the black Americans, go for it. That's fine. But don't like bullshit everyone to say like you're this or that, and
yeah,
then
you're like,
not.
oh, I'm half black, right? But even if that's the case, why is it always like the half like black, people that are trying, who are the most vocal about like black rights or whatever, or black mistreatment?
He's like half of a half of a half of a half of maybe a half, if he has any like black.
Yeah, if his mom's a whore, then
yeah, exactly. It's probably not true.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I haven't the well, because there's only like when it comes to the Winter Olympics, there's only a few events that I actually give a crap about.
Right, like curling.
One is hockey, curling, hockey, and speed skating.
Have you seen that? Have you seen that? That little clip of where people were like making fun of curling, where they had like the Roomba and like a Swiffer, and they were like they let the Roomba go, and then they would like take the Swiffer and like go in front of it, like
That's pretty hilarious. Yeah, I did see that. But overall, like I kind of I like the stuff that takes a lot of skill.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously hockey is there. I do like curling and speed skating. I think that's pretty fun too to watch.
What's that? What, is it like cross country, but for winter sports where they do like the skiing and like the shooting?
That's a good question. I don't know if that's in the Olympics or not.
Well, I mean, I know it is, but I just forget what it's called.
I have no idea what it's called.
I just thought it was cool because you get to ski and shoot a gun.
I don't see why anyone doesn't do that all the time.
I know, right? It's like chocolate and peanut butter, the perfect combination.
Well, everyone's so like, guns are bad. Like, we can't have guns. They probably like eliminated that event.
Well, I mean, I caught some of the Olympics and they still had it, so.
Oh, well, maybe they know something we don't then.
Maybe. But I don't know. I heard recently that they want to. Some people of a certain political persuasion are wanting to lower the age of voting to 16.
Oh God.
To 16.
No, we don't need 16-year-old opinions on shit. To be honest, we don't need 18-year-old opinions on shit. Those people are dumb too.
True.
I didn't know shit when I was 18.
Neither did I. Yeah, what is it? Like, your frontal cortex isn't fully developed until you're 25. So why don't we just raise the age that people can vote to 25? Because that way they can make a more informed decision and maybe have a better take on things, a more some nuance. Just a thought.
Well, I think it was Churchill who said this, and it was kind of quoted by Paul Joseph Watson of when I was younger, I was a liberal, but then I grew up and realized it was smarter to be a conservative. It's
that old saying, if in your 20s, if you're not a liberal, you have no heart. In your 30s, if you're not a conservative, then you don't have any brains.
Yeah, that's the quote. Thank you. I couldn't remember exactly what the quote was, but yeah, that's exactly true. So to be honest, I don't need 16
Yeah.
and 17 and 18-year-olds. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about because they haven't, and especially today's generation, fuck, they don't even know. They really know nothing. Like they literally have studied zero history. They don't know anything about anything, and then they make these opinions that people have shoveled into their heads that they
Yeah.
think is right, and it's not true.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 'cause just like I mean, and I think the left, I think right now are like exploiting that, especially after like the whole Parkland shooting and everything. Like there was like that
Well, let's talk
speech.
about all.
There was that speech by that that bald-headed girl who is just
This
on
big
her
idiot.
way to get that feminist underwater basket weaving degree. And she was like stating all these things where it's like, oh, they say that good guys with a gun stop. It's like more bad guys with the guns, like BS. And it's like, well, no, actually that's true. Good guys with guns do stop the bad guys. And
Yeah.
it's like all those like obviously spoon-fed false statistics
Yeah,
about guns. And
it's well, first of all, it's really horrible what all those kids had to go through. Like,
right, yeah,
no
no
doubt. Like,
one's
no
no one's
one's
saying
like,
that. It's
yeah,
like,
well,
oh,
school.
suck it up, Buttercup. We're saying,
Yeah,
oh, that was some shit that you should never have gone through.
yeah. No one's saying, woo, school shootings. Like, let's go. Like,
Yeah,
I grabbed my cup of coffee and I was just watching. I was having a great old time. No one's saying that. Like,
right.
it's, but then you have, first of all, I think it's very, um, I think it's distasteful to have these traumatized kids being thrust into
Yeah, thrust in front of
on a
cameras, and
camera.
then basically spoon-fed what to say, and especially at a time when they're really vulnerable. Because like this
Exactly.
traumatic thing happened, and they someone comes to them and is like, oh man, don't you want to stop this? Something like this from ever happening again. It's like, yeah. Well,
Yeah, of
let's.
course they do. Like, no shit. Like,
Yeah,
no one wants that to happen ever again.
exactly. But
Duh.
then they come to them and it's like,
But
oh yeah, just say everything on the page, and we're gonna make it happen. And it's like,
so to me, I feel like all those kids are being taken advantage of
no, for
because
100% they are.
the media.
100% they are.
I'll say this. The media can cry and like Jimmy Kimmel can cry all his tears that he wants, but I
Right.
guarantee that none of those people give two fucks about those kids.
No. And going back to Jimmy Kimmel, can you believe that he used to do something called the Man Show?
No.
With
Which
all
I
the
love, by
I
the
know,
way. I thought the band show was awesome.
especially with all the crying that he does now. Can you believe that he used to do a show called the Man Show? Think about
Can't
that.
believe it.
Think about it.
Oh, I can't stand Jimmy Kimmel anymore. I was like, he's like completely changed on me.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like that interview that he gave where he was saying like the interviewer was saying, he's like, oh, do you it's like, don't you want to kind of reach out to like the right or whatever, and he's like, nah. And then he was like, so he's like, oh, I don't really care if anyone on the right really watches my show. And it's like, okay, so you are alienating half of the country.
Yeah.
They're saying like, I don't give a shit about them. They don't like, good, like it's good that they don't watch my show. Basically, is what he was saying. And then, of course, like more recently, he was saying like, "Oh, I'm on the left because it takes brains to be, it takes brains to be a liberal." And it's like,
No, it doesn't.
it's like, geez, no, you just didn't call half the country stupid.
I would say more than half the country is stupid.
Yeah, because what was that? I don't know if this is true, but they had like that map adjusted. What for I don't know, like something like it was like a voting map, and then if they like adjusted it somehow, then like there was actually more states that were red than blue.
Yeah, it's just it's one of those things where like for me, I'm a person that like I like to think for myself, and let's look at facts. Let's not just like jump to conclusions, and in doing that and
As am I.
being objective to a sense. Like, I mean, no one's completely objective,
No,
but
we all have our biases. We all have our leanings. But
but
if we're honest about it, but then still entertain the other side, I think we'll still we'd be in a much better place.
so like yeah, it's one of those things where I just when I look at things and I understand things, it's just like no, I don't believe that. Like I can't get behind that at all, and that's why I would probably be more on the conservative side of things.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Because I have a brain.
Yeah.
As Winston Churchill said, I have a brain.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to take everything you hear or are told at face value. You can take the time and look at it and examine it and and test it and see if it holds up to scrutiny.
Exactly.
Like the whole like the whole 1 in 5 like rape statistic. That's ridiculous. So like on college campuses. So you're saying that women 20% of women are getting raped on college campuses nationwide in America. You're saying that women are getting at the same rate that women are being raped in the Congo, where rape is used as a weapon of war.
Well, according to them, yeah.
It's like, well, then, what parent in their right mind would send their daughters to any university in the U.S.?
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Hell no. Yeah, it's funny because I came across a quote. It was and it wasn't. I don't think it was and I don't think it was necessarily by the person that I heard it from. But the quote was, when it comes to my daughter, I want her to dress like a flower rather than a sandwich. Because a flower you just want to look at, but a sandwich you might want to take a bite out of.
That's a very interesting quote. I have not thought of that.
Yeah, and then I remember I shared that on my Facebook, and then someone I knew commented on it by saying, "Oh, that's rape culture." I was like, "What?"
That's
not necessarily that I was promoting rape culture, but like it's not necessarily like when like the whole like taking a bite out of a sandwich or whatever. It doesn't necessarily I mean, at least I wasn't. I wasn't trying to equate that to rape. I just meant like unwanted attention. Whether that was like hoots and hollers or hey baby, that kind of stuff. Not necessarily like the worst case scenario, being rape. I just like it'd be it'd be a warning to my daughter, to get the right kind of attention, essentially.
Right.
And so yeah, so dress like a flower, not a sandwich. Just saying.
Definitely. The world we live in, Dandy.
I am legitimately afraid for the future.
Getting too old for this shit.
I am legitimately afraid for the future. Because I talk to people all the time, and like a friend of mine, her youngest brother is in college, so he's like 19 or 20 years old, and yet
Yeah.
he doesn't have a license. And
how old is he again?
he's like 19, 20 years old,
And he doesn't have a license.
and he doesn't have a license, and he's in college.
And he doesn't live in New York?
No, he doesn't live in New York. He lives here in LA.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And he still gets dropped off to school by his mother.
Good fucking god.
Yes. Yes, that is exactly my reaction. You know, I mean, even before that, even when I was like 13, I wanted to drive. You know, every single time that my parents or my older sisters would go out, I always kind of be kind of jokingly, but that I was 99% joking, but then that 1% like kind of hopeful that they'd take me up on it. You know, when I was 13, I'd go, "Hey, let me drive." You know.
Exactly.
You know, when I was 13 or even like younger, but nowadays kids like they have no, I mean, pardon the pun, but they have no drive to learn how to drive.
Man, I was learning how to drive a standard transmission when I was like 10, 11, 12 years old.
Yeah, no, it's just this desire for me to for that independence, nowadays, like, I hear that, oh yeah, especially from young people, it's like, oh, my parents, just drive me. It's like, well, you're old enough to, it's like, okay, but don't you want to, maybe drive yourself?
Exactly.
Drive yourself, gain some independence, I mean, well, because I think, yeah, and the scary thing is with that independence come some responsibilities. So you have to drive carefully. You have to put in the gas. Maybe get a job to help at least put in gas. And not always depend on your parents. It's
exactly.
It's this infantilization that's been going on recently. And even again, there was this article saying that we should push back the age of when someone is considered an adult, and not because of some scientific, or at least it didn't sound like some scientific reason, oh, let's push it to 25 because your frontal cortex isn't fully developed yet. But but the reason was because more a lot of people aren't hitting those mile markers,
yeah,
in their lives. And I'm thinking, well, that's not a good enough reason to push back the age where someone should be considered an adult.
Yeah, no, that sounds stupid.
Yeah, because if they said oh, let's push it back to 25 because that's when a person's frontal cortex is fully developed and they're able to start thinking rationally. Okay, right. I could kind of get on board with that because there's actually a reasonable explanation for that. But just because because it was a lot of these failure to launch type of scenarios, or kind of that delayed adolescence.
Exactly.
But that's not a good enough reason to start saying, okay, when you're 30, you're actually an adult. It's no. I mean, our grandparents' generation and to the extent our parents' generation, they were considered adults when they're 18, and they were out of the house, they already had jobs and all that kind of stuff.
Right. I mean, it's just kind of like a degradation of the generations where, we're not quite like what our parents were or what our grandparents were, but we're also going to be better than the next generation too. It's kind of as far as work ethic goes.
Right. I mean, yeah, because my friend with the lazy brother, she was because her brother actually attends my old art school, and she asked me oh, he doesn't know what he's gonna get in. He started off as a freshman, and then for freshmen they basically just do kind of foundational classes, drawing, color theory, and form and space and that kind of stuff. Kind of like the basics. And she asked me like, oh, he's not sure what he wants to do, and then so I just kind of plainly asked her, like, oh, is your brother the type of person that makes things happen? And she's like, no, not really. I was like, then tell him to go into like digital or communication arts, because I went into fine arts, and I was lucky I went in as late as I did, because to be
because you're very cultured.
What?
Because you're very cultured. That's why.
Well, that too. But I had a little bit I had a little bit more life experience, and so I realized that to be a fine artist, you have to have hustle, and you have to go out there every day and get your name out there and all that kind of all that other stuff. To actually, and you have to basically make your I have a bachelor's in fine arts, and they in my school they put photography under the auspices of fine arts, which I think was a mistake, but that's for a different stream. But essentially, if you go into fine arts, you aren't really taught any practical business skills.
Right.
I mean, you're taught skills, but just not very marketable skills in terms of
stuff that you can use to get jobs and whatnot.
Right, like if you know how to use like this program called Rhino for 3D animation, or After Effects for motion graphics and things like that. You're not necessarily taught that under fine arts. You can learn it on your own, but no one's gonna say, okay, here's a program, here's how it works. You have to do it on your own. And so if I told her, hey, if he's not the type where he's he does things for himself, or he makes things happen, then he shouldn't go into fine arts.
Yeah.
Because you have to have hustle, you have to have drive, You
have to be able to market yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Which you definitely have that muscle in you.
Yeah, I mean partially because I've been doing
survival, you have to.
Yeah, survival, and I've been doing it for a very long time, and so I was aware of all this going in, and so
you could literally say look at my hands, I worked myself to the bone. It's
I know, it's just all I have to do is this. Look at what I created. Look at what I created. Which is with just these. If I had the budget, just imagine what I can do if I had a really good budget. I mean, even for this show, imagine what would I be able to create if I had the budget.
Dude, we could do so many great things if we had a bigger budget.
Right, I know, a fancier opening, title sequence,
I already have an idea for a different opening title sequence.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, shoot. Yeah, and I taught myself how to do all those After Effects things,
and
for myself.
I have some ideas for our current theme too. So that's another thing.
Well, that'd be more for behind the scenes stuff, which we will not be sharing with y'all, because nobody wants to see how the sausage is made. Rob, did you freeze up on me? Rob, I think you froze on me. Yep, there it is.
Sorry.
Okay. There it was.
Yeah, no, I had
yes.
somebody trying to call me.
I wonder who.
Guess who?
I don't have to guess. I already know.
I'm hungry, Andy.
Yeah, I thought you ate dinner.
Well, that's a hint to who it is.
Oh, well, yeah, I already knew, but okay, yeah. Well, whatever. They can wait. This is my time.
That's true. Yeah, but no, yeah, you definitely have like for what you do, you definitely have to have like the hustle and drive and the desire to do it, and which I know you do. It's just it's a matter of just like getting that like tiny like little foot in the door, and like I think once you like get there, boom, like a lot of opportunities are gonna come.
Yeah, I mean, that's really all that I'm looking for. Is just the opportunity,
Yeah.
because so many people are fixated on the outcome. It's like, oh, the outcome. It's all about the outcome. The outcome. Well, you know what? The outcome will take care of itself if you have that initial opportunity.
Yeah, it's kind of the idea of if you do all like the small things and you do them well, the big things come and like the opportunities come.
Right.
And
right, and a lot of times it's just like a proving ground because it's kind of like in the Bible with what is it? The story of the talents,
Yeah.
to some and talents in the biblical sense was actually a unit of money. Some people are entrusted with a lot of talents, and some people are just entrusted with one talent, and it really depends on it really depends on how well you use those those talents.
Yeah, it's in a more recent example too, and I'm probably gonna be butchering this quote because I cannot remember it like verbatim, but essentially it was from my hero Dale Earnhardt, who is like win or lose, if if you give like your best effort, you finish you finish with the heart of a champion. Essentially, like you're always like it's not because especially like in any sort of sporting event, more often than times you're gonna lose, and more often than you're gonna win. But like as long as you're not leaving anything on the table, like you have that desire of a champion, you have that desire of a winner, and so as long as you keep like putting your focus and effort into the things that like you're trying to do, you're gonna eventually come out on the top. Eventually.
You just have to have that all-in kind of mentality.
Exactly.
And Ian, you have to bet on yourself. There's that saying, you have to bet on yourself, and it's really true. Because if you are not willing to bet on yourself, then no one else will.
Yep.
And there's like that other quote, like if you don't value if you value yourself, if you value yourself very low, then the world won't. God, now I'm butchering the quotes, but yeah, it's like if you don't value yourself, then the world won't. The world won't pay. It's basically the world won't pay more for you.
Yep.
Guy, it must be getting late.
It is getting a little bit late. Yeah. I know I'm starting to I realize I've been up since 5 this morning, so
okay.
It's been a long day for me.
Yeah, it's been a long day for you. So yeah, and we're at about an hour and 20. So
God, we really the time really flew by this week. I don't know how I know we always get there, but it still surprises the hell out of me that we get through an hour or more every week.
Yeah, I know. It's
'Cause I
amazing.
really
But
had no
again,
idea
like,
we
you
were
know,
going
this
today.
this whole show is about, you know, conversation and, you know,
How it
conversations.
and like where it takes you.
Yeah, conversations where it takes you, and, you know, maybe sometimes we are treading the same things we have talked about, but I think majority of the things we talk about were pretty new. You know, were new, and some of the things that we did, like, you know, it was like a retread, but, you know, they were still worth. You know, there are still things worth talking about. So
Yeah, so some for you know, since we're wrapping up, some notes for myself for the audience. Well, we are taking we'll probably have a couple week break from Up by Up Down on Thursdays. I'm giving Andy a break because, you know, he needs it. You know,
damn
I mean,
right.
look at
I could
his
use a
hands. He's
paycheck
working-
too. Come on, come.
Yeah.
Where are you, Cactus Cooler?
I mean, look at his hands. He's worked himself to the bone for us. I mean,
Yes.
it's and so yeah, and so we're giving him a little bit of a break.
I wonder
But
if it looked like I was
there
flipping people off just now.
I mean, who knows? You could have been.
I could have been.
But we are working on we're both working on some new episodes right now. They are in the works. I have a whole bunch of notes that I'm working on right now for future episodes. So when Andy is ready to get going, I'll be ready. So I won't be the slow boat on the race in that one. And yeah, so but for now, watch what we got going on. If you haven't watched the Super Mario 3 footage that has recently come out, go ahead and check that out, as well as our Metroid and like other game footage that we have, and like and comment and subscribe on it.
All right, you heard the man. That's a wrap. Thank you for joining us tonight. Don't forget to join us every Tuesday night, whether it's at 8, 9, or 10 o'clock. Don't forget
I'll try to be more on time.
I know. Remember. The unofficial motto of this show is "It's always Rob's fault."
And drink Cactus Cooler.
Yes. Again, don't forget to check out the other videos in our library, whether it's other Nocturnal transmissions or the regular podcast. Don't forget to follow us on our social medias, Twitter at PodcastCOJ, and on Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. And that'll do it for us tonight. On behalf of me and the homeboy Rob, we say good night.
Good night, guys.